Welcome to another episode of the State of African Agriculture. Today we have Dr. Antonina Broyaka. She's an extension associate at the College of Agriculture at Kansas State University. Prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, she served as the Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Entrepreneurship at Vinnytsia National Agrarian University in Vinnytsia, Ukraine. Antonina moved to the state during the Russian-Ukraine war. We'll be discussing the impact of the war on the global food systems. Thank you. So, Antonina, thank you for joining me today.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting.
Yes. So let's start from the very beginning. You were the Dean of Faculty of Economics and Entrepreneurship at the Vinnytsia National Agrarian University in Vinnytsia, Ukraine. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, you had to move to the United States, where you're currently continuing your research right now as an extension associate with the Department of Agricultural Economics at Kansas State University. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey, how you moved to the United States, what happened?
That is maybe a little bit sad story and hard to me to talk about because my whole family, my husband is still in Ukraine and he's not able to join us since he's military obligated. Actually, every man in the age in between 18 and 60 are military obligated now due to the war situation in Ukraine. So when the war started on February 24th, that was just regular morning for us, but we woke up from hearing bombing, and my city and many cities around been bombed at the very first early morning, and that was very scary. And we were sitting several days in the shelters. I needed to go to work because I had high responsibilities being a dean of faculty, and I needed to decide together with president of the university and other deans, what to do next, what to do with students, what to do with faculties, how to continue. So, but I left my children at that time at home, and that was kind of scary, to leave them when you see missile in the sky. So after a few days, when the Kyiv being invaded, my husband and me, we decided that I just need to go somewhere to the safe place to keep our children, protected, to be safe. So it was not our plan to go to the US. We thought that the war would be over, like maybe in a few weeks. As you remember, Putin told that it will be 3 days war, and it's already more than 10 months, and we're still fighting devotedly for our independence, right? So we moved to Poland, and it took us 2 days to walk through the border because it was so many people, many, that was mostly women and children, and also seniors, and also a lot of actually international students from different countries, including Africa, who were studying in Ukraine. So of course they wanted to go home to be protected. So we crossed the border and to Poland, and we stayed several weeks in Poland waiting how it will develop, But the situation was getting worse and worse, and my friend in Poland who met us there and provided us shelter, they told me, like, Antonina, if you have any chance to go further, just go, because it looks like Poland could be the next, and actually, if this is, I feel now like it is my mission to provide this information to people and let them understand that if we will not stop this war, Russia will go further, because they will never stop. So I had previously some relations with Kansas State University, I've been here in 2004, 2005 academic years. I was a young professor at that time, and I got a scholarship to do research within Fulbright Junior Development Faculty Program. So I started nice relations in between my university in Ukraine and Kansas State University, and our delegations traveled each to another and had some conferences together. So then when the war started, and I got a lot of messages like, Antonina, if you have any chance to leave the country, you can come here and we will try to help you and your family. So when situation got worse, we decided with my children that let's try to fly to the US. So here I am. Yes, and I've been employed here, and I continue to do my research on the impact of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, what is the impact on agriculture and global food security, and how it will influence generally economic situation around the world. So if you have any questions regarding that, you're welcome.
So you're currently at, just so we're clear, we're currently at Kansas State University. You're doing research on the impact of the war on global food security.
Yes. I also gonna teach international agricultural development, which is very close to me. I have big international experience. I have 20 plus years teaching experience at the university. So
I'm happy that you were able to actually, move and get to a safe place. And not only that, you also continue to do some of the work that you're doing. So that's very good that you'll be able to do that. Well, yeah, I wanted us to talk more about, the farmers union. So can you tell us what is currently going on with the farmers like right now, in terms of what are some of the challenges the farmers are currently facing? Have there been even opportunities, partnerships to help them out?
Yeah, unfortunately, we are the war in Ukraine, brings to us a lot of losses every day, a lot of deaths, and a lot of destructions, including agricultural sector. Just talking totally about destroyed infrastructure in Ukraine, now it worth almost $136 billion of direct damages. And to rebuild economy of Ukraine, we need at least $750 billion. That is just huge amount. Many housing destroyed. Around 145,000 units of residential houses destroyed. 85,000 units of agricultural machinery and equipment being destroyed and stolen. And everybody understands that despite the positive dynamics in the nature of the hostilities in Ukraine, the war of liberation will last long, and we will need after that decades to rebuild and renew destroyed cities and villages. So talking about agriculture, we cannot talk like separately from other sectors of economy, because it's very interacted. And to be productive, first of all, we need labor, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people are forced to move from their home just literally because they've been destroyed, or a lot of people just move from occupied area. So within Ukraine, almost 3 million Ukrainians currently are in Europe, trying to protect their family. So we will definitely face a shortage of labor, and mostly men are now fighting for our independence, including farmers, right? So it's hard to sow and harvest because of shortage of labor. So that is one part. Another part is, as I told, huge destruction, especially of soil. Russia is very interested on our rich soil. That is one of the reasons of this war. Ukraine has very fertile black soil with very deep lay. So literally, each grain that would be, put in the ground will grow and provide a high yield. And Ukraine all the time was a leader among the world of grain supply, because we produce much more than we need to consume. Ukraine was number 3 of corn export. Ukraine was number 3 in barley export. We are number 1 in sunflower oil export. We were number 5 in wheat export. So, of course, our geographical location with access to the Black Sea provided us this opportunity to feed 400 million people per year around the world. So, but now we have a lot of damaged and stolen agricultural machinery. We lost almost 22% of our arable land, and many Ukrainian fields will be unsuitable for agricultural work for many years due to a lot of mines that are still on the fields, Another problem, storage facilities. Many of storages been destroyed. Talking about grain storages, we face this huge problem because before the war, Ukraine had around 57 million metric tons of storage capacity. At least 10 million tons of storage capacity being destroyed, which worth $1 billion. And around 3 million tons of storage capacity remains inaccessible due to the temporary occupation. So for now, this is big issue that we are working with other countries, including the US and European Union and other, and we're trying to get those portable rings or sleeves. We call this plastic bags or sleeves for grain. But this is just issue of 1 year, that for next year, we will need still new storages. Another huge problem, that is livestock. I will tell you maybe terrible numbers, how many animals being killed. That is more than 2,000 cattle, more than 200,000 cattle, 500,000 pigs, 95,000 goats and sheep. So the damage, losses to livestock, it's more than $360 million, and this is only direct damage, direct losses. And I'm not talking about indirect losses, right? Because to rebuild infrastructure, to renew all agricultural production, it will cost. And we're also losing money, being not able to sell what we produce. We're also losing money because of price difference. We will face a lot of problems, and we will need a lot of help and support to renew our economy, our agriculture, and to return our place on the world market.
I'm totally, I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless because totally reading about it is one thing. Then actually hearing it from you is a total different thing. And what this means is, it's disheartening and it just looks gloomy. So it's going to take time to rebuild. Is there any other, are there any parties or international agencies or development partners supporting Ukraine right now to ensure mitigate all these issues and all these challenges?
Every day, our president doing great job keeping conversation and negotiation with different countries around the world. And I'm glad that many countries, especially the US and European Union countries, really support us and provide us a lot of humanitarian aid and also military equipment. Because, of course, I mean, we are talking about economy and agriculture, but we cannot start to rebuilding our economy if the active military action will not stop, right? So, and you understand that Russia is 30 times bigger than Ukraine. And of course, they have more resources, but truth is on our side because they came to our land and they wanna occupy our houses, right? So of course, a lot of countries help us. Especially, I would like to mention the project that goes in Ukraine called Agrarian. It is helped by USAID. And that is $100 million project, help to support farmers, especially small farmers, to get those plastic bags for grain storage, to rebuild or get some new agricultural machineries. Also, irrigation system being destroyed in Ukraine due to the bombing, right? We need to rebuild that. So, and also a lot of our perennial crops being damaged, and it will take several years, right, to rebuild all those gardens and all those crops. So yes, we have support from other countries and from different organizations, including the United Nations, FAO and others. So, but it's still not enough, and we will need more to help our agriculture operate. Unfortunately, we harvested this year 30% less than previous year, and we expect that for next year, for 2033, the sown area under grain will be reduced by 45%.
Wow.
And the gross harvest can be lower by 60% compared to pre-war indicators in 2021. What does it mean? First of all, it means that we will not provide enough food supply to other countries, because as I told, we produce more than we need, but we self-sufficient. It will be enough to feed Ukraine, but will be enough to provide as much as we did before to other countries, right? It is the question.
Let me get a little bit into some of the stats so you can help us answer some of those things. Because one of the things we saw, like, in terms of, according to the Food Security Portal for Agricultural Market Information System, it says the entire volume of exports impacted by the restriction it's around 15.68% of total calories traded globally. And that is the same level that was seen during the 2007, 2008 food crisis. We talked about, the percentage in terms of restriction, export restriction, the impact. We're talking about 36% on wheat exports, 55% on palm oil exports, 17% on maize, and 78% on sunflower oil export, 6% on soybean export. So, and this has caused a lot of increase in food prices around the world. The IMF has also predicted the global growth of food, especially grains, would fall from an expected 6.1% to 3.6% in 2022 and 2023. And some of the stats that you're saying, a lot of countries, majority of countries rely on heavily on import from Ukraine, specifically Africa. With this overall increase in food prices, not just in Africa, there's a 5% increase in food prices globally, according to the FAO. So now, in terms of this food prices that we're talking about, is there any short to long-term consequences that were expected from inadequate food supply? Because you just mentioned that, the total production is going to go down and they can only food Ukraine, but you're not even talking about the export market. So what does that mean in terms of exporting to other parts of the world and, in Africa as well?
Let's start from the Ukrainian issue. So because of the shortage of supply on the world, if supply would be lower and demand is higher than supply, we definitely will have a growth on prices. But talking about domestic market in Ukraine, unfortunately, prices go down. And this brings to farmers another trouble because the production cost is higher than prices, that they could sell their grain. So for some farmers, it doesn't make any economic sense to harvest. For example, now we have harvested around 75% of planted corn. We even didn't harvest it. It's already January. Usually we finish harvesting corn in the middle of November, beginning of December, and it's already January, and we didn't harvest everything, and that is first of all due to the high prices to fuel and limited supply of fuel, right? Because unfortunately Ukraine is import dependent for fuel supply, and also due to this difference in prices. So some farmers probably even will not harvest. So last year, marketing year, we harvested 42 million ton of corn, and for now we harvested only 21, so a half. What does it mean? It means that this corn will not go to the foreign market, and of course prices will rise. But even within the Ukraine, we have difference in prices. Like if it's more close to active hostilities, the price would be lower because nobody wanna go there and pick that grain. It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So farmers, if they will not get money, they will not cover their cost, and they will not have enough budget for new sowing campaign to continue operate. That's why they will need some credits. And another problem is seeds. We are losing seeds. We lost several banks of our seeds, and it means that our yields will be lower, right, due to many factors: damaged soil, technology not following, right, vegetation calendar, we're not follow it now because you go to the field when you can.
Yeah.
And also due to fuel prices, due to destruction in logistics, so many troubles with that. So, but on a world market, if we will still feel a shortage of grain supply, the prices will grow. But if other countries will help us with our grain initiative, or other countries will produce more that could replace losses, it's hard for me as Ukrainian to say that. Yes, in terms of my country, I want my country to be successful and productive and continue to be a top leader. But talking about global economy, if somebody losing their position in a market, somebody need to replace it, right? And Africa still needs a grain, right? And somebody needs to supply this. So probably United States, maybe, I don't know, Brazil will provide more grain to Africa, but also Ukraine can provide if we will have enough support of shipping this grain from Ukraine.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's also an opportunity for us to look inwards as well and see what we can produce locally as well. So
yes,
that
yes,
is also
yes.
an opportunity.
It is important to build a kind of resilience and to be ready for any crisis in the world. So I think, yes, it is important for African countries to try produce as much as possible on their own. And of course, I understand that climate is different compared to Ukraine, right? We have very fertile soil and good climate that are really supportive to produce a lot of grain, but still there are some technologies that can be adopted to increase production in African countries to decrease their import dependency from other countries in terms of grain supply.
Earlier, we talked about some African partnerships that what's going on currently. Can you talk more on that?
Yes. First of all, you know that Ukraine signed that grain initiative with Turkey and United Nations, and there are some three ports only, unfortunately, are unblocked, and we have some exports through those three ports of grain to different countries, including Africa. Around 12% of all grain that left our ports since 1st of August, that is the date when this initiative started. So around 12% of all total exports through ports went to Africa. And totally for now, for today, 16.7 million metric tons of grain left Ukraine. In general, 12%, around 12% to Africa.
So that's good to learn about this because I had no idea this was going on. So, well, the crisis has brought in some mutual partnerships, and we hope that we can continue to have that going forward. But I wanted us to also, look on the other side of things, based on your experience and lesson learned. The world has gone through a lot of global crises, recovering from the pandemic and, handling the climate crisis right now and the impact of the war. What advice do you give to countries to build more resilience and protect their supply chains? And how do they prepare for future shocks? Especially for producing countries, what advice would you give them?
Unfortunately, you cannot be 100% being prepared, especially for the war, right? Because
definitely,
yeah, I remember my first shock. I still couldn't believe, even watching TV and see the missiles flying on the sky. I couldn't believe that it can happen to us in this time, right? And it's really, really a sad story and hard to believe and very hard to get prepared. But talking about not only the war, but other crises, of course, any country need to build their own food security system, right? To be sure that if something happened, that if something interruption on a supply chain, they will have enough to keep their processing, for example, industry working, because a lot of countries just getting raw materials, right? Just grain, and they make flour and bake bread and etc., right? But it's not only about grain, it's also about veggies, fruits, right? Livestock, everything. So as for me, building your own food security, you need to have production of some basic food, right, within country, and also have some storages in case if that supply chain would be interrupted, that you will have enough time to build new relations and establish new supply chain. But also, I would recommend to build not only food security system, but kind of independence through development of bioenergy production, because one of the problems that we face, as I mentioned, we are import dependent for gas, natural gas, right? And it creates problems in the future, right? Like, for example, talking about sanctions that been introduced to Russia, many countries still have trade with Russia, despite that it is a terrorist state and influence on the safety globally, but they still do this trade because they're dependent they need some gas, right? So I would recommend to develop more green economy, right, and develop bioenergy production that would reduce our dependence from those natural resources. And also talking about zero carbon future with minimal reliance of fossil fuel, and adoption of a Green Deal that is going on in European Union, in the US. So implementation of climate smart agricultural technologies, right? It will, like, for example, like minimum tillage technologies, or using organic fertilizers. It will help to protect our nature and also build our resilience.
It's a sad, unfortunate story because, you just said the other countries don't have it, so they're buying from Russia, which is stealing some of the grains, like you mentioned. So I'm speechless. I'm so sorry that this had to happen to Ukraine or any country. It's very disheartening and heartbreaking. Before we wrap up, I want us to use this opportunity to talk to the viewers that are seeing this in terms of agriculture. I know right now the situation looks like a bleak situation, a gloomy situation, and we're not even talking about building back. That's one other thing, and the current situation on ground. But how you talk to the viewers and tell us what are the ways or three strategic ways that you feel like they can help support to continue production, but just even any kind of support?
We need all, there is no sector, there is no industry that has not been affected by this war. So we need a lot of support. Of course, we will need money to rebuild our economy, but also we will need a lot of technical support and machineries, equipment, right? Seeds, fertilizers, because Ukraine, first of all, due to our fertile soil, due to our import dependence for gas, we didn't produce much of fertilizers. We produce only 30% of what our necessity, right? So we will need fertilizers, we will need equipment, we will need technical support. But also we need some political support. I'm really glad that on a October 12, when the resolution regarding the territorial integrity of Ukraine and protection of the principle of the United Nations Charter, neither of African countries states voted against the resolution. So I'm glad that we have support not only in Europe or America, but also from Africa countries. It's really important for us to have support that people would understand that why you don't have enough grain. That is not because Ukrainian fault. That is because Russia wanna use grain, food as a weapon, and to blackmail import-dependent countries, right, to play the dirty games. So the political support and diplomatic relations are also very, very important. So I just want to ask African people support Ukraine and understand that nobody deserves to be killed, and especially on their own territory, in their own homes. And if we will have African support, it will help us to win this war.
Thank you. And this challenge affects everybody as well. It affects African support, but also affects even Africans that were in Ukraine or are in Ukraine, but also affects it impacts the whole global community in terms of food production. So thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, reading about this is totally different from hearing from the source, and where you have got to experience it with your family and what's on ground. So I'm really sorry. This is really heartbreaking that this is happening to you. Antonina, thank you for your time. And I hope that next time we get to connect, we'll be at a better time for you and your family, where Ukraine as well, where you'll be back with your family in hopefully good, just be back and be happy. And hopefully like Ukraine is, in a better situation where the war is over and you'll be back home safe. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions regarding it, we'll definitely, get back to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm glad that I had this chance to speak to African auditorium. I think that is really important for Ukraine.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.